I just like those rock guts. It's like, I threw a rock. That's not impressive. It was a big rock. All right, here we go. Episode 2 of a podcast I didn't think I'd ever be doing. Razortree Productions, Jared here with Jonah from the Card Shop Games. It's a local game store here in Granbury, Texas. If you can go ahead and introduce yourself, Jonah.
Hello, as I said, my name is Jonah all day. And I manage the card shop here. I play a ton of games, and now I sell a bunch of games.
Sure, it helps to play them.
What is it?
I'm sure it helps to play them. I know I've gone to a few game stores where some of the employees don't play anything.
Yeah, I used to only do one or two things, mostly Magic the Gathering, but now after running the game store, I've tried tons of board games and miniatures games and all sorts of stuff. That way I have a little bit of knowledge about what I'm selling.
Well, how long have you had the shop now?
I believe we're going on 4 years of being open ourselves. Beforehand, it was owned by a previous owner, and then he wanted to sell out to spend more time with his family, so we ended up acquiring it, I believe, July 2016.
Nice. God, that's already 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, so I don't imagine it was at the shop. How did you get started with wargaming?
With wargaming specifically, I remember when I was 9 or 10, I was walking into an old game store and getting Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but I saw these guys playing at the time Fantasy. I had no idea what it was, but it looked awesome, and always wanted to play stuff, but never had the money or anything to get into it, so I just kind of stuck to little kids games, stuff like that. And then fast forward sophomore year, I had a guy who was trying to get out of War Machine and Hordes, and so he ended up selling me Troll Bloods dirt cheap, and that was the first army I ever played of war games. And I was like, oh, this was super cheap, so surely everything else should be. Not exactly, but it was fun. And slowly collected armies for that. Kador and Crix and all sorts of stuff. But and then 3 years later, I ended up getting in.
You cut out there. You got into
Dark
what?
Vengeance set. Started Space Marines, and they are a lot of fun. I still have pretty much all of my Space Marine army. But then one day, the old owner got in a Imperial Knight, and as a young lad, have had a great love for giant robots. And I was like, "What is that?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, you could play that as in your Space Marine army." I was like, "Well, now I have to get it." And then they were like, "Oh yeah, you could play an entire army of them." So now, 7 nights later.
I don't even need the Space Marines? What?
So, and then eventually got into Age of Sigmar through another buddy of mine wanting to get me into Fantasy, but it had switched over. And so I started with Seraphon and then ended up playing you. And so I think you were the second person I ever played in Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, my first game ever. Actually, it wasn't both our first game ever as Sigmar. No, I think my first game ever was against you with my Vanguard Stormcast against your Seraphon.
Yeah.
First edition.
Yeah, and we got to start off with points.
Yeah, we did. I actually talked about that in the first podcast of the luxury that me, Brian, and Sean have is that I'm going to pull up some pictures here of this because I think I have them somewhere. But we started the game when the General's Handbook existed. We didn't know there was a game without it.
Yeah, I never got into it. I remember the change going over and Stormcast coming out and liking them because everybody was complaining, oh, they're the Space Marines of Age of Sigmar. And I was like, well, I like Space Marines.
Sounds good to me.
With no points, I was like, it's a little weird. So I never actually jumped into it until afterwards.
Oh man, yeah, I don't have the pictures. I think I've got some pictures of our first game on our Instagram, and the only reason I want to bring that up is because first edition was back when the bases didn't matter. So we've got pictures of Lord Aquilor of mine completely surrounded by skinks, like all over his base, just all crunched up on each other. It was just quite the cluster.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't realize you played War Machine for what, two or 3 years?
Technically, I had owned a War Machine army War Machine Hordes game army for 5 or 6 years until I ended up selling it. My Sigmar was the last one I owned.
I was saying, did you play very much?
Yeah. When in high school, I played a lot of it. Mostly Magic, but I maybe every 2 weeks got a game in.
How different is War Machine compared to, like, I guess even what we're currently in? How different is War Machine compared to current Age of Sigmar?
How different are they?
Yeah, because I legitimately don't know how different they are.
Oh. Well, they're decently similar, but there are some strong differences. Like they use a lot of stats, and so instead of like pretty much every war game, but instead of roll, if I have 6 attacks, I roll 6 dice like in Warhammer. You would, for each attack, you would roll 2d6, and then compare that number from your attack stat to their defense stat. And so it's almost like playing D&D in a way, but the biggest problem is your warcaster or warlock being your essentially general was if they died, the game ended because your robots or monsters would just leave or power down.
Ugh.
And so it was a really chess-based mechanic where if you lose your king, you lose. Just straight up.
No thanks. I know that's just a play preference, but I would not be able to handle that. I really like the Sigmar aspect where you can be tabled and still win if you get your victory points high enough. I don't know that I would like that with War Machines, but it's one of those games I just never got into because I didn't really know it existed. And I saw miniatures and didn't know. Yeah.
I mean, my biggest draw to it was obviously giant robots beating each other up, but the way the game actually shook out when you wanted to play it more competitively was you'd maybe have 1 to 2, if that, and then just spam a bunch of units. And I was like, well, it's not called war units, it's called war machines. And so ended up getting out of it, but
that's cool. So you started with Seraphon. I know and that was like back in first edition when there was the Crocnado and all that stuff going on.
Yeah.
Have you stuck with Seraphon? Where have you gone from there?
I have not. They're still around. I ended up selling them to a guy, ended up giving me them back, and then I sold them again to another guy that frequents the shop. So they're still around, but no, with 40K, the Space Marines and Knights, I fell in love with like immediately. But in Age of Sigmar, it took me going through 3 or 4 armies to finally land on my favorite army that I own currently.
Yeah, I know at some point you were convinced you were going to be into Iron Jaws, and he had a game where the Maw Crusher ended up getting killed by some raptors, and he just didn't like the mechanics and sold them to me. And now those Iron
Yeah,
Jaws are the ones that have been on the channel. We've got some battle reports with your Iron Jaws you sold me on the channel now.
yeah.
So Seraphon, then Iron Jaws, then I can't remember, where'd you go from there?
I believe the next one I jumped into was Sylvaneth.
Oh, that's right. I think we played like maybe 2 games.
Yeah. And then I had the generic Sylvaneth player of, well, I got my army, but I only have half of it. I need all these trees.
Yeah.
I don't want to buy like the Citadel Woods. I don't want to buy just a bunch of Citadel Woods.
Yeah, because this is before their I don't want to say good, but before their newest battle tome. So
Yeah.
it was back with the old trees.
Yeah, so their battalions were nuts, but I don't know, they were really, really rough. You couldn't make a mistake or else the game just ended very quickly.
Yeah, that was around the same time I started getting into my Phoenix Temple. Got a hold of those and we're getting them painted up.
Yeah.
All right, so we have Seraphon, then Iron Jaws, then Sylvaneth, and then where from there?
At that time, I was buying a bunch of dirt cheap lots of Stormcasts, especially the Sacrosanct Chamber, because I kept getting a bunch of them dirt cheap, like $40 for the whole side of Soul Wars for Stormcast.
Wow.
Multiple times.
Sounds like how I got a corn army.
Yeah.
You'll sell it for what? I'll take it.
Yeah, and so I ended up getting a bunch of that together. But kudos to you for liking Stormcast, but they were just had the problem I had the Iron Jaws. They were just way too one-dimensional. They weren't bad, but they couldn't overperform. They just performed.
Yep, they weren't anything. They're not bad at anything. They're not good at anything. They can do everything, kinda. It's the curse of Jack of all trades. They can kinda do it all. I mean, if you really focus, you can get them good, but it's still, mortal wounds are so powerful in Sigmar that when they don't have much to deal with that, they can still just fold.
Yeah.
So no, you sold those off too, right?
Yeah, I ended up selling those to Ben, who had Legions in the Gash, but I think he has sold them already as well.
That's funny. Ben has been on the channel. I kind of want to get him on here too, but Ben's been on the channel. I'll put up a little card for one of the battle reports he's been in. He frequents Legions in the Gash and Maw tribes. But
yeah,
you're apparently also a master of flipping armies, because you haven't just like bought an army and then like eaten the cost to get a new army. It's like you spent enough money to buy one army and you've played so many.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, as a store owner, I'm not exactly rolling in dough, although I wish I would. But so I try to be a little cost efficient. So if I had owned every army, if I still owned every army I've owned before, I would probably have a third, if not almost half, the armies. But
yeah, and debt. So Stormcast still not the last one on the list. Where'd you go after that?
Yeah, so I got Stormcast. I ended up selling them after, but then that's when the Christmas announcement of Gloomspite Gitz was coming out. And yeah, I finally fell in love with an army aesthetic. So it only took 2 years to do. And several armies later.
That's yeah, I'm sure they could have guessed by now. I've got the picture of you that I have up, since you don't have your webcam, is from one of the videos that you recorded with us, where you're standing there introducing your army and it's a big background of Troggoth Hag.
Yeah, the princess.
The lovely princess.
Yeah, and yeah, she is awesome. Yeah, she's the first Forge World model I ever owned, and I still have her because she may not be, Nagash or Archeon level, but she puts in work. So
She becomes such
but
a target. You know, she like traps units into targeting her when they shouldn't.
yeah, she's a really good distraction Carnifex. So basically a bait piece where it's like, look at this giant monster, you should go attack her. Oh yeah, by the way, you're -4 to hit, so have fun. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
swear,
no. So
every time I played against that Troggoth hag off camera with my Phoenix Guard, they would just sit there and tank her all game and then kill her if they needed to, but they would sit there and hold a point. Then we film games against my Phoenix Guard, and she just wipes them out in one turn.
yeah,
Oh, of course.
yeah. Well, yeah, she's really solid. I think maybe a little too many points, but I don't know. I can't complain. But yeah, so yeah, Gloomspite Gets was definitely, because in Magic, my favorite creature type, if it's not Eldrazi, is Goblin, and I knew goblins existed, the like night goblins and stuff, but when they finally got a battle tome, I was like, okay, this is a real army. I'm gonna try to learn it, and so I still own them. So they're still my favorite army by far.
They're a lot of fun to play against too. I can say that for sure because you know we've had so many games against each other now with so many different lists, and you know it's always a challenge, but it's not like either of our lists are overpowered or anything. It seems like a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool combos.
Yeah, I like it because it does and doesn't suffer from the Stormcast and Ironjaw's problem of they just do their thing. They don't really have much randomness. They just kind of do it. I mean, Ironjaw's a little more than Stormcast, obviously, but yeah, goblins are very random, but if used correctly, you could put that randomness to work. And so it's like, yeah, you need to Hail Mary this combat, and 60% of the time you won't. That 40% of the time you do, it's gonna feel great.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah. And so yeah, they're just so much fun. They can play in every phase too. Not great in the shooting phase, but they can.
I don't know, that
But
moon on a stick, that thing's annoying in the shooting phase.
yeah, and the hag puke is disgusting. But yeah, really strong.
You know, it
And
occurs to
so
me that we could have a battle report of just models you've owned at some point and have Ironjaws versus Gloomspite Gits. Because Ironjaws now under Auric Warclans with the new battle tome they got, they're very much the same but a lot different. They play like you feel like they should have instead of how they did.
yeah,
And it's real cool now. And I mean, I know you can play them under Big Wah, and it's you know, the community feels it's better to play them under Big Wah, but it's still a lot of fun to play them under Ironjaws because
yeah,
there's a couple of combos I really enjoy doing. I don't know if they're the best or not, but it's really fun to do. You can pick I think it's Bloodtooth's clan lets your general have an artifact. If it's your Maw Crusher has to be your general to get this artifact, but it's a once per game he can cast the Great Big Green Hand of Gork, and it can't be unbound, and it's always successful. So that one time it just goes off.
it's like spell in a bottle.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Caradron spell in a bottle, and I love to do that. I have a list with no weird knobs at all, just so I can have him throw a unit of Ard Boys across the board. Because that clan also gives +1 to charge. So you've got +1 to charge for being Ironjaws, +1 to charge for being Bloodtooths. An Ard Boy that gets thrown across the board has another +2 to charge because of their drummer. So they're +4 to charge on a 9-inch charge. And you can just throw them across the board. And then the rest of the time you're like using your command abilities to get extra movement and stuff in the movement phase, because you can run Iron Fist Battalion, and now it lets you use that command ability without spending a command point. So you have a lot of extra movement, and it's a lot of I'm going to first turn charge you, and I'm either going to win really quick or I'm going to lose really quick, but it's going to be awesome. Kind of the same thing with you. Like, it might work, and if it does, it's going to be great. But if it doesn't, good game. Let's have fun.
Yeah, it's like a combo deck of Magic. It's like, all right, I'm either going to kill you or we shake hands and move on to the next game. But
that could
yeah,
be a
no.
fun bat rep, though. Those two random explosion armies.
Yeah, which is funny because I really like goblins. So when people on the uh, internet sits there and talks about, oh, goblins are cool, but I don't want to paint, 80 goblins or 60 goblins for a list, I go, I'll take that challenge. I have 140 of them built and painted right now, and 40 more to go.
Jeez.
But I will agree, I do like me some Troggoths.
Well, that's the cool thing too, is you didn't just get Grots, you got a lot more out of it with the Troggoths and everything, and the spiders. And
yeah, when it's all said and built and painted, when it's all said and done, I will have a playable list for just Grots, just Trogs, just Squigs, and just spiders.
So 8,000 points individually of Gloomspite gets?
Yeah, minimum. I probably have more Grots than any of those others combined.
God, I know you've got all the eras of them too, because you've got old plastic, old metal, new stuff. It's quite the combination.
Fine cast, resin, all sorts of stuff on them. Yeah, I really like goblins.
Man, is that where you stopped? With Gloomspite
I did at first, and I sold my Stormcast after that. But no, I ended up trading a commander deck for and it was a solid commander deck for an entire 2,500 points of Magakin and Nurgle with some Slaves of Darkness thrown in.
Wait, so and just to clarify for anybody that may not know, a commander deck from Magic the Gathering, just one playable deck?
Yeah, so Commander is like a multiplayer format, and I tried to build a competitive deck. There's a lot more casual players in our store, which is fine. So I ended up trading it for a Warhammer army. My distributor still laughs hearing that story.
Seems like a good deal to me, but I'm not as versed in the weird value of Magic cards.
Yeah. Turns out when your game's 27 years old, they actually hold their value. But yeah, no. So I ended up getting a Magakin army and a little bit of Slaves of Darkness mixed in, mostly Marauders, before they were cool.
So you like painting annoying hordes, essentially?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is funny because in War Machine, I played Crix. So imagine playing Legions of Nagash, where if Nagash dies, you lose, but I can bring back all my models every turn and gum up the board. And so, yeah, maybe that is what it is.
It's a smaller board in War Machine, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, I think, usually a 4x4, and then in some smaller games it was 3x3. And then they had a common mission called Killbox, where if you played on a 4x4, you basically make a sort of like a 2x2 or like a 2.5x2.5 square in the middle, and your leader has to be in that box at the end of the second turn. If not, they just die.
So it's like what is it, Call of Duty or whatever, or I'm not sure which one it is, but like that fog that slowly closes in on the map as it goes on too long.
Yeah, and it's essentially, and so the idea was to get your caster in there so you could, actually have a game that doesn't last 6 hours. Because in War Machine there was no game length like in 40K and Age of Sigmar. The game could literally. I played a game where both our casters were designed to go kill the other caster, and we played probably 20 turns of us just bouncing back and forth until I just ran forward and I was like, please just kill me, I want to go home. So
yeah, there's a lot of value in having that 5-turn limit. It's helpful.
Yeah, I hated it at first, but now it's my best friend. So
With the way we all play each other, we're lucky if it gets to around. Well, I say that we're lucky if it gets to turn 5, but it seems like every time we record a battle report, we like get right down to the bottom of turn 5 before we know who's going to win for sure.
yeah. Um. Yeah.
So
It's
Maggot and Nurgle, surely you ended there, right?
not quite. So Slaves of Darkness, already being a tiny part of my army, ended up getting a battle tome. And I've always wanted to own an Archeon and build and paint him, so I did. And then I was like, well, I have these Marauders. I have this Archeon, so I guess I'll get the battle tome. And then ended up getting to start collecting a War Shrine, and so now I have it's Demon Princes, so now I have a Slaves of Darkness army.
Yeah, and I think that's the first army you have that hasn't been on the channel yet.
Yeah, it's not all painted. Oh, it's gotten a lot farther along.
I mean, Archeon's
Then
done.
I think you saw it last.
It basically is how are the Marauders coming?
Yeah, well, with contrast, it is actually really simple. Besides the metal and their little leather straps, 20 of them are just about done.
Wow.
And so all I got to do is the 20 more, just 20 more. But, and then 15 Chaos Warriors just need metal and basing. I think at that point it's like, I know one of the Demon Princes and the Chaos Lord is done. The Chaos Sorcerer Lords have some paint on them. I think it's really just the War Shrine. I think my base list is 20 Marauders and a War Shrine left. Oh, and then the Chaos Knights, I guess.
Okay. Do you have that, what is it, Crackadrack or whatever it's called?
I do, Mr. Crackerjack. Yeah, he is just need some metal and basing painted, and he's done.
That is a cool looking model, man. I really like that hero.
Yeah, he's 250 is a lot of points, but he can put in that amount of work.
I didn't realize he was that. I didn't realize he was that expensive.
Yeah, but yeah, no, he makes knights really solid, turning him lances to 3/3 -2 rend 2 damage on a charge.
Eek.
So.
Wow. So is that your plan? Is to get that to be the next list? That's I don't want to say filmed, but that's your main list you're working on right now in general.
Yeah, because I have so much of it worked on with Nurgle, because it can be in Maggotkin and Slaves Darkness. Though I'm probably closer to my Blessed Sons list, because I just need to work on some Blight Kings, and they're almost ready to go too.
Man, that's awesome. So at this point, you're actually holding on to essentially 3 armies.
But wait, there's one more.
Oh, I've led you into the other questions. I didn't know there was another one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my newest army, and it rhymes with only having to buy 4 start collectings, and I had the whole army minus like 2 models. And yeah, so I own Flesh Eater Courts.
Oh, I knew that. I completely forgot about Flesh Eater Courts.
Yeah. I was like, all right, what death army is fun, looks cool, and doesn't kiss up to Nagash? I'm gonna play that one.
There we go. Gonna play Flesh Eater Courts then.
Yeah.
I completely forgot because we've had some great games already against those, like low point games, 1,000, 1,250, with my half painted Blades of Corn that have been half painted for a couple of years now.
Yeah, I've only played 1 or 2 big games with them. Mostly a bunch of little point games, just trying to learn them, because they're kind of like Stonehorns, where you can just monster truck them forward. But unless you're rolling all 6s, they do require some finesse.
More than is, I guess, initially thought of. They do take more than it looks like initially.
Yeah, but still strong. I know I'm the like cheesy gristle gore, but if my love for giant robots didn't lead you into thinking I was gonna play all the monsters and things, it was pretty obvious what I was gonna pick if I picked Flesh Eater Quartz. Even if flares or horrors or whatever were the most competitive thing, I was gonna pick Gristle Gore no matter what.
Because it looks cool.
Yeah, and I think I had Flesh Eaters as a option to build at the time I was building Sylvaneth. I was trying to decide between them and Flesh Eaters. This was like 4 months before their Battle Tome.
Yeah, for at least a year, you've been wanting to get Flesh Eater Quartz and just always kind of put it off. No real reason, just kind of did.
Yeah, I was just like, I have all these other cool things I'm trying out, so I'll get them eventually.
Glad you did though, because I can't believe I forgot about them, but they look awesome. You're already getting those mostly painted up too.
Yeah, that one's gonna be basically all contrast paints, because they're cool looking, but I'm not like trying to win awards or anything with them. So
yeah, I finally came to that conclusion eventually with my models as well. Is like, look, if I spend a lot of time on one, I can get a decent paint job, but I don't have the patience to do that consistently. So if I want to just get stuff on the table and or on film, I'm just gonna get it painted in whichever way is the fastest. You know, and it's still happy enough to me, and I'm not embarrassed for it to show up on film. So I'm like, that'll do.
Yeah, which I mean, I love Flesh Eaters. They're a lot of fun. And then my Maggotkin stuff is cool. They're slowly getting worked on, but the models that I've, besides Archeon, put a lot of time into are pretty much all my Goblin heroes and models. So.
And the growing number of fungoid cave shamans. You know, it started out with them being a named hero, and then they turned into a regular unit or regular hero.
Well, the big thing was like Slaves to Darkness, where they got their update and it changed to a lot of instead of just general chaos, now it's just Slaves to Darkness. The fungoids were great allies in pretty much every destruction army, and they still are now. But a lot of people in our group stopped using them, so they ended up just trading them all to me.
Yeah, I had one that went to you because he was in the Ironjawz army before when he was the named guy, the Stink Mullet. I think is what he is. Yeah, because he would generate command points for anybody, and that was pretty good. And then when it was Gloomspike Gitz, it was like, you take him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I had him in Ironjawz to give a -1 to hit spell, because I think that was his base spell, and then they've obviously changed it. So now it's just a mortal wound spell within D6 inches, so basically non-existent.
Yeah. If you're using this, you've died already.
Yeah, if he's in combat, either you killed him already, or how haven't you killed him already?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I have 3 of those, and I've worked on one of them up to completion. The other 2, I just need to finish their dry brush, their highlights and base rims, and they're done too.
Man, that's a lot of painting.
Yeah, I definitely signed myself up for a lot of work. As all right, what are all the horde armies I can play minus Flesh Eater Quartz? And even then, I still got to paint 40 ghouls. I only have 20 kind of done.
Oh, just kind of like a summoning reserve or something?
What was it?
Is that for like a summoning reserve?
Yeah. Just a little cheap battle line choice and then summoning off of the Archregent.
Okay. Yeah, no, I initially didn't want to play hordes at all and was like, low model count. I'm too intimidated by this. And then I got Phoenix Temple and changed my mind completely. I was like, wait, 25 mil bases mean what? Oh, I've changed my mind. I'll paint this.
Yeah. That's probably why I'm really liking my Blight Kings again, because I only have to paint units of 5, not units of 40.
Yeah.
I was like, I love my goblins, but those are the only ones I like putting time into getting mass amounts of them done.
Hmm. Well, hey, I
But,
know we originally had something at the shop that we were going to do. We had a tournament that we were going to run that was going to be 1,250 point tournament, but this was set up before the pandemic hit, and since we're in quarantine, we had to cancel. I want to do a tournament once quarantine is over, but now that I've had time to think about it and stew on it, I want to make it a 2,000 point tournament. How do you feel about that?
yeah, that doesn't bother me at all. It just means I got to get my butt into gear to painting.
So if we did a 2,000 point tournament, what would you bring?
Hmm. Well, at this point, I think it might depend on when the tournament is, because with the announcement of the new Giants, the Sons of Behemoth, I I really want to get some of them, and if if at all possible, built and painted as a tournament list, no matter how good or bad they may end up being.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. What about the rules? Don't care. Can I buy them? Will do.
Yeah, yeah. Doesn't matter if they're as gross as a Terrorgeist or as mediocre as Alariel. I want my Imperial Knight style army in Age of Sigmar, and while Flesh Eaters are cool, giants are generally working with Gloomspite. Like I already have a Gargant built and painted for Gloomspite, and so like, well, I kind of want to start on that. But if they I can't get that done, um, probably Gloomspite.
Yeah, I figured. It's just a matter of what iteration of it you'd bring. It'll have a hag. I know that.
Um, I don't know, probably, but yeah, maybe the hag and some rot guts. Um,
The bigger
I kind of want to
units.
do a list with all my Trogos and then just as many spiders, or not spiders, sorry, grots as I can fit in. Just flood the board and then have them stand behind where it's like, all right, you get to crash into my goblin lines and you're -1 to hit or minus multiple hits if you're against my hag and just smack over the top of them. But we'll see. We'll see. It just depends on the timing of everything.
I just like those rock guts. It's like, I threw a rock. That's not impressive. It was a big rock.
Yeah.
Old Batman reference there. But anyway, I don't know what I would bring. I know that sounds weird, but I'm kind of torn now. I really enjoy my Hammerhall, Phoenix Temple focus lists, but I want to get some more games in and get a battle report in with this Hallowheart list, the all Dark Elf endless spell Hallowheart list. It's pretty fun. All the units and all the models in it fold instantly, but it's still there's just still something fun about it. That one game against Ben where I ended up like dispelling Nagash and outcasting Nagash, just it felt too good.
Yeah. No, you never know true excitement and happiness when you watch 10 Loon Smasher Fanatics drop Nagash and my opponent concedes right there. After the moon, I Skagarot moved it turn 2 to the middle and then was like, okay, if I roll a 1, this is going to get really gross. And yes, I rolled a 1.
Nice. Which you've done that a surprising amount of keeping the moon in the middle of the whole game.
Yeah, I've had. Don't get me wrong. I've had my the tournament game we did for 1,000 points. The last round never left the starting point that I had it at. I kept
Oh,
rolling ones, but I have had an interesting number of games where I was able to move it to the middle and keep it there for a turn or two. And without the moon, Gloomspite basically have no allegiance abilities minus the terrain piece. But when the moon's up, they put in work.
moon's out, gloom's out.
Yeah, and so yeah, yeah. So I don't know.
What do you
Uh,
think has been one of your favorite moments in an Age of Sigmar game? Because we've had so many games, and you've had so many games with so many different armies.
um, yeah, I don't know. We've had a lot of. My favorite is that we've had a lot of really close games. Like I've played, obviously, tons of games where I play Archeon against Skaven, and he has to run both his Vermin Lords away because I had him in Zinch and rolled 4 6s on Destiny dice,
Oh,
and he just couldn't get near him. But so besides those games, I would say my favorite one that we had, and yes, I won, but that's not why. Was the game where we played Gloomspite versus Stormcast, specifically Shootcast versus Troggoth Heavy
oh
or
yeah,
Troghurt, and I had the Gargant in my list, and I never rolled a doubles, so he just looked like a undercosted powerhouse.
yeah. When he never falls or does everything you want him to do, he's a lot better than you would think.
Yeah, when I was just like, oh, you have what was it? Judicators, the bow dudes.
I think that lists. I'm trying to remember that game. We didn't record that one, but it
No,
had some castigators, judicators, some raptors. I think it had the ballista, which is something I rarely play with, but it had that.
I think I think you might have had a ballista, but I know you for sure had 9 raptors, and then teleported in my back line.
Yeah,
But no, it was the turn where I had to make a 9. I teleported him, had to make a 9-inch charge, and at least kill uh 3 of the 4 guys you had left of judicators.
yep.
And I rolled a 9, was able to make the charge, piled in, stuffed your hero in his bag, and then
That's right.
on the 3d6 club got like what 15 or 16 hits.
Yeah, it was almost like max attacks.
Yeah, and ended up dropping the whole unit and winning the game because we were playing what is it? Total Conquest. The like if you steal an objective,
Yes,
you
I
get
think it
2 points instead of
was.
1.
You know, and it's funny. You kind of rolled past the charge thing like it was just a difficult roll. If you don't know how the Elgos or Gargant works, like if he rolls a
Oh yeah,
double to charge, he falls over and just doesn't charge. So needing a 9-inch charge means that he's either going to fail or he has 2 rolls that can work, a 9 and an 11, because a 10 will be a
yeah.
double and a 12 will be a double.
Well, if I get double 5s and double a 12 auto fails, so I couldn't roll a 12. Yeah, I yeah, it was surprising in the least. He put in so much work that game that maybe that's why I'm so excited for the new Gargants. It's just because it's like, yeah, when they work, they do work. Like they run over every unit in the game.
Maybe whenever the Ilguzzler's big brothers get here, he'll sober up and he won't fall over all the time. Who knows? Maybe he'll
Yeah,
get yet another rule rewrite.
yeah, I know, right? I mean, hey, if he loses the drunken stagger or can toggle it on and off, but he goes up in points, no harm, no foul to me. I'm still gonna run him.
Man, I think my favorite moment in some of the games we've had, I also lost, but I had a almost full health Maw Crusher. And I was playing Iron Jaws and playing against your Seraphon.
Oh,
You know where I'm going with this?
so dirty.
So, in one shooting phase, he had a very powerful roll, and I had a very terrible save roll.
Abysmal.
Abysmal. Yeah, we could put it like that. And here's why it was abysmal. It was a unit of skinks that were shooting, and we know, and this is before all their new stuff, so their shooting's always been bad. And it certainly was the case here. But it was what, like a 20-man unit of skink, something like that?
It was a 40-man.
It was a 40-man? Okay, so at least there's that I can console myself with. One shooting phase, 40-man unit of skinks, completely shoots down and kills my Maw Crusher.
Yeah, it was 3. I had the Shadow Strike battalion, so it was 3s rerolling 1s, 5s rerolling 1s. No rend, 1 damage.
And
just took him down.
Just took him down completely.
Yeah.
You couldn't help but laugh. I frowned, but I laughed and was like, wow. I mean, the thing is, we constantly joke about how skinks are like powerhouse unit, most underrated unit in the game. Amazing. This is back when they could teleport or just retreat from combat.
Yeah.
And, that did not help. And then we were like, oh, yeah, skinks super powerful. I mean, they took down a Maw Crusher in one shooting phase.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is when the Maw Crusher was like, what, 540 or whatever, like insane amount of points.
Yeah, it was before, it was the old Iron Jaws Battle Tome. It was before, I think it was the 2018 General's Handbook as well when this happened. So
yeah, something like
Iron
that.
Jaws got a point adjustments in the 2019 General's Handbook and then got a Battle Tome with Auric Worklands on top of that.
Yeah. But
it's crazy. There's still a lot of legal armies from the General's Handbook 2019 that you can play, but you don't really see anymore because of cities. Like you can still run Darkling Covens and get that battalion, but a lot of the command abilities are on the War Scrolls now as well. It's just now it's spread out through the whole army. And like Free Guild, technically Free Guild still has they're still legal as Free Guild, but I think a lot of them get weird with what's legal for Battle Line and all that. But anyway, the weird thing to look at is maybe you might see weird builds coming out, like Dispossessed, I think is another one. It's still technically a legal army.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of wanted to do a Free Guild army, and then when Cities came out, it was like, oh, I can do Free Guild with Quadrant Overlords. But I don't know. I already have so much to work on now. I need to hold off.
Yeah, I think you were just about to pull the trigger on that Caradron and possible Tempest Eye stuff until the Sons of Behemoth announcement.
Oh yeah, no. I think it was I was sold on it for a week until the announcement.
Yeah, because you finally were like, I'm doing it. It's gonna happen. Hey, look, giant Urgargants. Never mind, Caradron.
Yeah, I'm the meme with the guy looking back at the other girl. And it's like, oh, giants, you say? But yeah, no. So hopefully I made the right call.
I think you did. I don't know how you could go wrong, no matter what the rules are, by having those on the table.
Dude, they look amazing.
Yeah, I can't believe how crazy the detail is on those.
Yeah, and that's even before people get a hold of them for conversions. You know your boy's gonna have a bunch of goblins running around on their backs.
Oh yeah, like take all the humans out and just grots everywhere.
Yeah. And mushrooms maybe sprouting out of them and stuff like that. Yeah, no, I can't wait. They're gonna look amazing. They are amazing, and so I can't wait for them to come out.
Man, I know you're not the only one. I think basically everybody is, especially knowing that they can be in any faction.
Yeah, I know. I heard about that, and I was like, a flesh eater quartz gargant, you say?
Could I somehow get a smaller model count?
Yeah, exactly. 20 ghouls? Nah, get those out of here. But yeah, so super excited. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, the pandemic sits there and everybody starts getting better. But we'll see when that comes out.
Yeah, speaking of that pandemic, since we're in Texas, there's talks of loosening, not completely getting rid of restrictions, but talks of loosening restrictions. And for your shop, that means that you'll be able to possibly do curbside service, which you can already do now, right?
Yeah, that's what we've been doing for the past week and a half.
Okay. So if you are in Granbury or around Granbury and need any sort of gaming supplies or hobby supplies, Card Shop Games, you can see on the video here, I've got the address and phone number up. They are doing curbside service, and as soon as the governor allows, they'll open into what capacity they can and offer whatever they're able to. Yeah,
we're still having a rough time with especially GW distributors because they're all pretty much shut down.
Yeah.
But we've been able to get in a couple new things, but we still have some paint, some models and stuff like that. So you can always contact us on Facebook Messenger or call us and when our hours are up and can let you know what we have in stock.
Awesome. Hey, do you have sprays like primers?
Yeah.
What colors?
I don't know how much. I don't know how much exactly we have, but I know we should have Chaos Black, Corax White. I believe we have Wraithbone and Grayseer contrast, and we should have plenty of Mechanica Standard Gray. I believe is also what we have.
Excellent. I don't know if y'all heard that out there, but that whole Apocalypse currency, Chaos Black Spray, card shop has it.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, we're at unfortunately out of a couple key paints like Abaddon Black that I know people would need, but we still got others, plenty of contrast paints and shades and stuff like that. So
excellent. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us. I know you do a lot of battle reports on the channel, so I wanted people to get to know you and get to know your shop.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, anybody that wants to come in and play, once we're able to legally, I'm more than welcome to play Age of Sigmar 40k. I got a little bit of Kill Team stuff, Warcry stuff, pretty much anything.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks again, Jonah. We're going to wrap up here. Thanks for listening to episode 2 of our podcast. Y'all have a good night.
See you later.
Thank you for tuning in to Razortree Productions. Click the card to see more videos like this, and click the subscribe button and the bell to receive updates when we post battle reports, rules, and tactics videos. You may pledge on our Patreon page, link in the description, to support us and unlock access to early release videos, music downloads, and more. Finally, please consider visiting alsa.org to learn about ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, and donate to fund research for a cure. For any links concerning Razortree Productions, you can visit razortreeproductions.com. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.